Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares with me. From the heart, thank you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video to help this message reach out a little more. Thank you. Well, everyone, since was said is a promise, earlier on the video I put out, I spoke about the Billy Evil. And I know since I got on here, been asked a lot about him, right? To touch on him, and I touched on the ending part, but I never really got into like on the movidas we did out here that are basically public knowledge, right? But anyways, I spoke to you about a riot that had happened, and for some reason I thought I had already spoken to you about this riot, right? I don't know if it was on the other guy's channel before I came on here or what, but anyways, that's what I want to share with you today. First and foremost, if you were a camarada around that time we were there, is was a big headache, right? I mean, you were playing Mexican rules and regulations to the dot, because there's nothing past that, right? But with California and federal and all these different mixes of rules and regulations, and so you had to do what you had to do as a camarada, which is what I always tell everyone, just be smart, you gotta be smart, and most of all, you gotta, from early, you gotta know where you're at all times and know how to separate. That includes the people, right? I mean this to say, Evo was a good senor. He had a lot of plans for the homies and he was doing it. This is even before I got out here, you know. Daryl had a lot of moves planned out for camaradas out here. And again, his position was won by him alone, right? But you also had Rudy, Sapo, them guys with Jalisco, and they didn't agree with the evil. And then you had the other four individuals that basically did whatever Daryl said. And I mean, where I'm trying to get is the headaches, right? That's the headaches we were going through behind the scenes as camaradas. We're still trying to stay derecha la flecha when it came to us, right? At the end of the day, well, at least that's why I came down here, was to open up the pipeline for us, our movement, you know, fix it to the point where we didn't need that middleman no more. It could maintain steady on its own, right? Its own pipeline, raíces, whatever, And anyways, I talked to you before about one time when we got busted with evil. Well, this was a different time that happened about a year, man, a year, maybe a year and a half after that, right? Basically, I was in touch with evil, or should I say, his Highness, because he could pretty much stay with him, right? And a lot. And we were starting to make the wheels turn. You know, I take credit because, well, I know what was happening, right? At the moment, D was stuck in Sonora, uh, and Guanatos, the pilis there were recalled there, and certain pilis were still tied to aretes. It was, it was basically we were turning the wheels to what the objective was. Well, anyways, in another salida, we had to go out there to Durango. Keep in mind, this is when Durango and Sinaloa were one, everything, right? So there was always a good uh, a good via to follow, right? That was secured and allow you to get there and everything. Just once you were in Durango, there was issues because there's always issues when the government's part of the movement, right? But anyways, we were out there in Durango. We were supposed to do something real fast. It was somebody that had gotten out where the Señor Evil was at, and it was like the Pili somehow got the directa and the so it was just real quick, pum pum pum, and dispatch him and head back to what we were doing, right? And excuse my words, and I say things that may sound dumb, But anyways, that's the objective why we were going out there, and at the same time we were seeing if we could take some dulce out there to Evil, cause and he was busted, right? And somehow this fool started being clicked up with the vatos there doing things, and I'm not gonna say we got into it with the Judas, cause we wouldn't be here speaking more, right? Especially at that time that Marine was out there, so but we got caught like straight socas, straight lames, eh? We were circling where we were supposed to go. The long drive though, we were thirsty, hungry. We stopped at a dumb Oxo, and the worst thing was we stood outside eating, right? And guess who pulled up to the parking lot on us? The guachos, right? Once they pull up, we couldn't get to where we had our things, and even if we did, it would have been a loss from the get go, right? So it was after that. It was ¿qué es esto? ¿A dónde van? ¿De dónde vienen? Boom, boom, boom. Con todo y dado respeto, jefe, yo no sé nada. Ah, ok, muy machito, tráetelo para acá. And it was that for I don't even remember how long, but it was, the part of you're welcoming in the system in Mexico, right? Anyways, in due time, due to the cuetes, most of all, they put us right there where evil was at, in el CF14, and I want to run it so you guys have an image, kind of the jails in Mexico. First and foremost, the state prisons have no control. The plaza that runs the streets usually always runs the prisons. Always. And even the director from everything works for them individuals, right? There's no control, no juras there to supervise anything. But the federal prisons are different here. The federal prisons are kind of like what we consider a 180. We're mostly always locked down. When we come out, mostly we come out in our own group, separated, and they do let us out here and there by accident, per se, and things happen. But most of all, when things like that happen, is because there's a flip about to happen. So they need to get rid of the people in the state, but they can't all lie them back in the federal system. So what they do is they make this big scenario about people that hold the prison went to war, and then there was 30 people dead, and all that type of thing the news love to touch on, type of thing. But anyways, I don't want to get off track, right? We got there, and eventually we went on lockdown with Evil and the homie P and B that were still there with him. And basically, at first, he was upset, right? We went there to do something, and we didn't even get it started. But things happen. Like I said, Evil was one of them Pilis, right? So now it was to figure out our our salida. We were there for crumbs, guns, dope. All that is nothing, right? I'm not gonna get into it on this one, but Evil was there for the movie, not on that Pili on the streets. That Pili was under another crew, per se, right? And yeah, Evil was on that trip where he wanted all camaradas, period, to fall under Sinaloa. No one else. And we were struggling in that too. With me, it just happened to be the luck, right? That my family is one of the families in Sinaloa, and I'm from my roots come from Sinaloa's. My dad's family's all from Sinaloa. They're in that game out here. But he was having power struggles. There's camaradas in Tamaulipas, there's camaradas in Juarez, there's camaradas with the aretes mostly. There's they're camaradas with different crews, or organizations down here, and they weren't agreeing with them. Basically, you're out of bounds trying to call it out here. Basically, a lot of camaradas said, I went over there, did my time, did my thing. I'm out here doing me and my family. F the causa. I got nothing to respond for it no more. Which, people that answered you like that, off the back, they were going against the grain from what the Pili was saying. And second of all, you weren't going to allow Abato to tell you, F the causa, right? Or F whatever, everything you have tattoo on you and you stand for. Nah, first chance we got, we boogied, we danced, right? But Evil would even get upset at that. He didn't want that extra drama. It wasn't like D. You see, I haven't really gotten into D because, full respect to the family, right? even though he took my family. But the argument between Evil and D was already in. He was jefe de Sonora for a Sinaloa faction, but it wasn't enough. He was looking elsewhere to sell Sonora to, and that was just going to bring a stop to everything we were trying to do. And Evil was right. It was going to affect what we were trying to build. But again, Evil could say something we couldn't, right? But anyways, that's a different topic. While we're there, there's a lot of disrespect happening. I don't know what happened in Chihuahua, excuse me, but it was a big one, right? For them to be moving people importing from Chihuahua, from Alquiles Cerdán, the state pen, to the federal 14 in Durango. And at first, people that could go both ways, they were like, mándalos para allá. So they were doing this flip flop, trying to cover. Anyways, and one of them times we went and they sent us, you know, which was Evil, myself, homie Perro, B, homie Bugsy. Well, would you say about 10 camaradas, right? And we went out there and it went bad right away from the gate. And a lot of people blamed Evil that he called the shot on the riot, and it's far from the truth. Evil didn't want that attention. But when we got there, La Linea was strong there. That means the Aztecas were strong. And we were already carrying a lot of baggage with the Aztecas from Durango because every time they seen the homie Evil, and they would do their DO stuff from behind the door type of thing, right? And or whenever we came out, because it was mostly lockdown, like I said. But anyways, we're carrying that baggage. But when we get there, it's the whole Pinta is divided. Half is Sinaloa, and the other half is La Línea and Los Zetas when they were together. So we get there, and I remember me and P were walking with Evil, and was this Zeta. They call him what was his full name? Buffalo, Scopeta Buffalo. I forgot something to that effect, right? Because he was a big dude, and he said something. I remember, and Evil walked up and just stood in his face, and I said, I didn't hear you. And then that fool said, F su. Before he finished that, me and the homie P were on him. Ping, 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 ping. We were outnumbered, though. We all went up. We all went up. We knew we had to be carrying. We went up, and we every single camarada that was there that day hit his mark. Not all of us got stabbed that day. Tell you that much. But anyways, how we got lucky was basically the guns were supposed to be in the federal. Evil definitely. So right away the director from that pen said, "No, get him the hell out of here. I don't need this right now, right here." And they shot us right back to Ceferezo 14 in Durango. And when we got back, it was like 2 weeks, 2 weeks or so, somewhere there that evil and other camaradas that were running with evil that I would touch later on them that were doing big things. And the families of Sinaloa, the ones that we could get out, still for paying, we got out. And Mexico's all gas, no brakes type of thing. We got out, we got in the Ramfla and, smell you later. Put that on second gear and vámonos. We sat back, we went back to base and sat. But that's one of the famous riots they say Evil called that shot. But I'm here to tell you, Evil wasn't on that plan here in Mexico. That's why he had a lot of jugo when it came to Sinaloa. The only error Evil did, in all sincerity, was try to defend a camarada. And he wasn't in the wrong, right, for asking for time to. We could have done it in a day, right, covered that amount, but it wasn't about that no more. And Evil said, "Oh, you ain't gonna give me a time limit, firmes. I'll go over here." And that's one of the worst things you can do in Mexico is different bosses and you try to bounce things off of them, right? Can you do this for me? No. Oh, I'm gonna go over you and ask him. It's what leads you to hit your demise here in Mexico. But anyways, I thought I'd share this story with you guys. I hope it makes sense. I'm working on a new intro. Do excuse me, everyone. If you could go on my studio, my whole channel's unread right now. I don't even know how they're allowing me to keep going on my channel. It seems people are taking advantage of it too, because I wake up every day to new things, that I understand why. My respects to everybody. I allow everybody to do their thing, and I said it when I started. Everything that happens in life has at least 10 different angles to look at it from. So everything that happens has at least 10 different angles viewed by different camaradas, different people. And I'm not here to stick my nose in other people's walk, but I guess I'm doing something wrong. With this, I always send my love and prayers. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.